everyone. How is everyone doing? I am so glad you guys could all be here with me while I'm reading Harry's documents here. Well, the parts of the court documents that haven't been redacted. Because if you guys were here last night, we all knew this was going to happen. Hello to everyone who is coming into the chat. Welcome. Say hello to the mods. Say hello to one another as you come in. I hope you guys are okay with the intro, but say hello to the mods who are giving up their time to be here and control the chat and make sure it don't go crazy up in here. But I figured we should go through the documents because I did get the documents through Pacer, and I think that we should read what wasn't redacted because I feel like the mainstream media and Daily Mail or whoever else is just going to share the portions that they want to share. But I feel like it is important for us to go through all 6 parts of the document. So if you guys don't mind, I did let the mods know, like, if there are any important questions or anything, we're going to save it till like the end of each section because I don't want us to be here all night long, right? Like, I don't want us to be here all night reading this and going through it, but we're going to do it so that we can get through this really quick also, okay? So here we go. This is going to be fun. As we all know, I hate to say this, but oh, wait, I grabbed the wrong exhibit. I've already made a boo-boo. No, I've grabbed the right one. Oh, I've grabbed the right one. Silly mole. Here we go. Okay, so this was page 1. So there are 6 parts to it, and page 1 is just basically lining out what there is and what exhibits are within this filing. So they're letting us know that the part of exhibit 1 is an in-camera declaration with a first U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So they had someone from Citizenship and Immigration Services answer their questions, and they have that declaration here. And then in part 2, they have someone from Customs and Borders doing an in-camera declaration. Part 3 is the same from someone from Department of Homeland Security. They have an ex parte order, which was what they wanted to have not the public see. And I think that was, do you guys remember when the government filed that? But they didn't let the Heritage Foundation or anyone else know about it, and it was done under seal also. So I think that's where the ex parte order was. And then they have a second U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services in-camera declaration, and then they have the transcript at the end. So let's go through this. And, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm just going to give you a heads up right now. Like, I just hope that you guys aren't expecting anything. I don't want you to feel like something. I know I said personally myself, I said that it would be nice to see Harry being held accountable for his actions. But at the end of the day, the truth is that Harry will always be above the law, and he knows it. He knows that he will always be protected by his father. He knows that he will always be protected because he is a part of the UK royal family, and that he will get away with his nonsense and his shenanigans and his crazy behavior. So let me just, yeah. I'm sure he will not. You don't think so, Martha? You think something will happen? Because at this point, like, the way that they are hiding the information for him, no other person would get this sort of treatment, would they? No. I mean, even people like Nigella Lawson and George Michaels, they have their visa application information like available, and you can read it. Some of them weren't allowed in the States because of the use of substances. Sorry guys, I'm kind of sick. It's okay. I hope you feel better, Sandy South. But I feel like we need to come to the realization that at the end, that Harry can basically lie in his visa application without consequences. He can misappropriate government funds and violate civil rights and come into a country that isn't his and try and silence people by having a say on their First Amendment rights. He thinks he can trash the US Constitution. He thinks that he can, even talk shit about President Trump like he did, and nothing will happen. And I feel like in a way, like, okay, karma does catch up with everyone eventually, but also Harry has been getting away with his behavior for a long time now. I don't think it's going to stop or change at this point. But let's go through the first exhibit here. So this was the Heritage Foundation, Mike Howell, who was going up against the Department of Homeland Security. So this was an in-camera ex parte declaration of Jared Panter. And Jared Panter is an acting associate center director and chief FOIA officer in the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, National Records Center, United Citizenship and Immigration Services within the United States Department of Homeland Security in blah, blah, blah. I don't need to exactly say where he works, but additional information regarding his background and relevant FOA experience is provided in his public declaration filed in this case. So he says that this in-camera ex parte declaration is being provided in response to the court's order of March 7th, 2024, directing the defendant to submit to the court an in-camera declaration or declarations that detail with particularity the records it is withholding and the particular harm that it would arise from public disclosure of them. Per the court's order, in the chart below are detailed descriptions of the documents identified by USCIS FOIA office as responsive to plaintiff's requests that are being withheld in full per examination based on the privacy interests of the Duke of Sussex. Now, I thought Americans don't deal with titles. Like, shouldn't they be using his name in the lawsuit? Like, they are calling him the Duke of Sussex. I mean, who gives a SHIT that he's the Duke of Sussex? Who cares? But let me continue on here. Says the documents are listed in the chart below in order which they are scanned into the USCIS FOIA processing system. So I feel like everything has been redacted, right? It's all been redacted. So doesn't this look worse for Harry that all of this has been redacted? Because it feels like, you've had all of these things that you're hiding. I feel like it just makes him look worse. It just doesn't look good for him. Here we go, still redacted. Everything's still redacted, still redacted, still redacted. Page 7 redacted. We got page 8 is redacted. And where are we here? Page 9, we've got a little bit redacted. And then it says, as the documents reflect, redacted, redacted, redacted. And then it says here, as explained in USCIS's public declaration, USCIS has determined that all records responsive to plaintiff's FOIA request are categorically exempt from disclosure pursuant to FOIA Exemption 6 and part based on Exemption 7, blah, blah, blah. This declaration further explains Exemption 6 in response to the court's order. And then at the very bottom, it says that USCIS attached relevant documents reflecting the Duke's immigration status, blank, blank, blank. Additional documents can be provided if the court is needed. And then it says here, Exemption 6. Exemption 6 of the FOIA protects personnel and medical files and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. I wonder what kind of personnel and medical files they could be referring to. Hmm? It doesn't look good, that's for sure. It doesn't look good. But let me keep going here. Uh, where am I here? Exemption 6 has been applied to the records responsive to plaintiff's request because to publicly reveal the above described documents or any portion of these documents would reveal redacted in violation of his right to privacy. Are they redacting his name there? Like, is that what they're doing? Redacting his actual, like, government Henry, Charles, Albert, David, whatever. Is that what you guys think he's redacting there? I wonder. It's an absolute mess. It's a total mess. He's protected because his dad is the king. Just remember that. In violation to his right to his privacy. As explained in USCIS's public declaration, specific details regarding these records or the volume of the records could not be disclosed as the records would show redacted, 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 redacted. USCIS determined that it was not possible to release any record or any portion of the records as it would allow someone with any familiarity with immigration law to determine redacted for the Duke in the United States. USCIS routinely protects from disclosure the non-immigrant immigrant status sought by third parties who do not have permission from the beneficiary to receive this information. To release such information would potentially expose the individual to harm from members of the public who might have reason to manipulate or harass individuals depending on their status in the United States. Now, that is very telling. Listen to this again, okay? Listen to this. Doesn't this tell you right there what kind of, like, it should give you an idea what kind of visa he's on? Oh, why am I not being able to do this? Use two fingers, mole. Come on. Right here. Listen to this. To release such information would potentially expose the individual to harm from members of the public who might have reason to manipulate or harass individuals depending on their status in the United States. Now, doesn't that, like, I don't know, doesn't that make it seem like he could be possibly on an A1 visa, like a head of state visa? If he is on a head of state visa, then that means, and this is just me speculating, okay, then yes, the American taxpayers would be pissed off because then they would be paying for Harry, who is staying in their country, who is basically making millions off of them, is having his life paid for and security covered for by taxpayers probably. Isn't that everything that A1 status has? I don't, this is crazy. FOA. I know you in the know. Footsie girl, thank you. I love you so much, Molly. I'm gonna give you some Indeed US Governmente clout. FOIA is FOA. I want you in the know. Thank you, my dear. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh dear, it's just like reminds me of that time when I called the US magazine Us Magazine. It happens. I appreciate you correcting me though. I truly do. I love when people explain to me how to actually pronounce things properly instead of calling me a dumbass, but it's all good. But yeah, taxpayers have the right to know, and that, I feel like that line right there is very, very telling. But here, let me continue on. Further, USCIS determined that to release the specific information for the Duke, redacted, to release his exact status could subject him to reasonably foreseeable harm in the form of harassment as well as unwanted contact by media and others. So Prince Harry, the guy who's constantly complaining that he's not protected, that his life is in danger, he can't go anywhere, does Does this seem like a guy who is a victim? Does this seem like a guy who is in danger? He seems like he is pretty damn protected, that even the government, the US government, is still protecting him by redacting all of this information and not letting US taxpayers know what this illegal immigrant is doing in their country. Because let's be honest, Harry is an illegal immigrant. And what he is doing is defrauding the government by taking money from charitable organizations or doing like getting paid for his work or connections through BetterUp and things like that. This is ridiculous. He's a victim, Maya. I know, this is hilarious. Let me continue on here. Let me have a sip of water first before I continue. So let's go. It says here, the records also contain very specific private and personal information, including specific file and record identifiers in the records, redacted. Under Exemption 6, once an agency identifies privacy interests, even if those privacy interests are lessened or diminished, they are balanced against the public interest in disclosure. Public interest as defined by FOA. FOA, is that right? Is that which sheds light on the activities of the agency, as stated in the USCIS public declaration. In most cases, there is no discernible public interest in the disclosure of non-immigrant immigrant records because disclosure of private information in USCIS files regarding specific individuals does not shed light on the activities of USCIS, and as a result, would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of their personal privacy. The plaintiffs bear the burden of establishing that the public interest in disclosure outweighs an individual's personal privacy interest in their information, and that significant public benefit would result from disclosure of individual records. Moreover, a requester who asserts a government misconduct public interest must produce evidence that would be deemed believable by a reasonable person, for there to exist a counterweight on the FOA scale to allow USCIS to balance against cognizable privacy interests in the requested records. A plaintiff who alleges government misconduct, such as justification for disclosure, must put forward compelling evidence that the agency denying the FOA request is engaged in illegal activity and shows that the information sought is necessary to confirm or refute that evidence. Hasn't that already been done? This is absolutely ridiculous. I adore you too, footsie girl, in a non-footsie way. I adore all of you who are here tonight, and thank you for being here and listening to me read out these documents for you. Let me continue on because we have 6 exhibits to go through. In this case, there is no privacy waiver by the Duke and the documents redacted. He has not publicly or officially disclosed redacted. There is potential of harm in the form of harassment of his exact redacted is revealed. Thus, there is a significant privacy interest involved in the records. Plaintiffs have not established public interest as defined by FOA in disclosure of the records. Plaintiffs allege that the records should be disclosed as public confidence in the government would suffer, or to establish whether the Duke was granted preferential treatment. This speculation by plaintiffs do not point to any evidence of government misconduct. The records, as explained above, do not support such an allegation, but show the regulatory process involved in reviewing and granting immigration benefits, which was done in compliance with the Immigration Nationality Act and applicable rules and regulations. See, now this is where I have a problem myself, because didn't Harry literally open the door when he started talking about all of his illegal substance use? He was the one who said, I need to use psychedelics just to get through my day every single day. this sounds like this is ridiculous. I mean, I would make a bigger stink and put more pressure on the government because this is ridiculous. There is public interest to know why this guy gets to go and admit to using all of these substances, and we don't know what kind of visa he's on when others have gotten turned away for much less. This is a privileged guy who is being coddled again for making a mistake and saying something that he shouldn't have. And now he is being covered for because he is Daddy Charles's son. The correct way to pronounce FOA is FOA. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, guys. Thanks. You know me, English is not my strong suit here. It is my third language, but let's keep going here. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you. It says here, with regard to item 3 of plaintiff requesting to seek any information related to waiver under section 212 of the INA, redacted, and then redacted, and then I declare under the penalty of perjury, blah, 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 he gave this, and this guy is an acting associate center director of the Freedom of Information Act and Privacy Act unit. So, I mean, that's his statement. Thank you. This is his statement. Okay, so this is what he's saying. He's saying, you know what? We don't really need Harry to, we don't need to talk about it. Harry didn't do anything wrong. Harry's a good guy, but we don't have enough, what is it called? Enough proof about the matter. So basically, I feel like, yeah, redacted is proof of corruption. I believe that 100%, because if you had nothing to hide, why all the redactions? You don't need it. You don't need it at all. He's a sad excuse of a man and still uses his late mother as a crutch. I even said he has definitely destroyed his mother's legacy. Do you think someone will try and leak the unredacted version? I hope so. I hope so, that's for sure. Susan says, what's redacted are his illegal criminal activities, drug use, abuse, decades long of essaying women, including a recent Better Up staffer, including many Diddy part. Yeah, Susan, if you weren't here last night on last night's live, I pulled up a photo of like Harry when he was younger, and it looked like he was allegedly on drugs and he just looked a mess. Like, we all remember that. Harry thinks that just because he's gone over to America and he can rewrite narrative, and none of that has ever happened. But yeah, I agree. Hi, monster. The mascot has awakened. Okay, part 2. Let's go over to exhibit 2. We're going to get through this real quick. Why does this keep popping up? That's annoying. Okay, so exhibit 2 has 10 pages. Pardon me, sir. May I help you? Why don't you just chill? There you go. Okay, so exhibit 2 is they were talking to someone from the Homeland Security, and it's someone named Sherry Suzuki. And they do, of course, it's all at the beginning. They talk about when they're giving this and when they are giving this in-camera event. Here we go. Let me get my screen right. Sorry, guys. Yoink, yoink. There's so many things open here. Okay. So Sherry Suzuki is the Freedom of Information Act appeals officer and the chief of FOIA? Yeah. FOIA appeals and policy branch. What, monster? Are you thirsty? Hold on, guys. I got to get monster some water, and then we'll continue on. Here, little gremlin. There you go. Have some water. We got some water drinking ASMR in the background. Why is he allowed here? He's allowed here because of who his father is. That's why. FOIA. That's how we said it. Thank you. Jewel says, I'm pissed that effing ratbag is fleecing taxpayers here and effing ratbag Charles too for the disgusting entitlement. Yeah, I mean, I'd be pissed too. I pissed off as a taxpayer. I didn't like it when they were fleecing Canadians. I don't like it that they're fleecing Americans. They shouldn't. You guys can still hear him drinking. Monster, you got a group listening to you here. No, it's talking about the dog. Okay, let's keep going here. Sure, we're thirsty, little gremlin. So let's see what this lady says. So she says that other than entry and exit records, you good? Good job. Let me put this here so my silly ass doesn't knock it all over. You good now? There you go. Okay. Right now. So it says, other than entry and exit records, as is the practice when asserting a GLOMAR response, CBP had not searched for additional records concerning the Duke of Sussex prior to Court's 7 March 2024 order. So they never did a search on him. So this was from, where was it? This was from U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Okay. Let's go, keep going. On the remaining redacted listed in Section 2 of plaintiff's request, one of the systems of records, the automated biometric identification system, was not searched by CBP and is not a CBP system and being separately addressed. The non-federal entity data system, NEDS, was not separately searched as the system of records is regarding a data set of travel document information such as enhanced driver's license shared by certain states, Native American tribes, Canadian provinces, and other federal governmental authorities. There is no apparent relevance of this data set to the Duke of Sussex as a citizen of the United Kingdom who travels to and from the United States. Redacted. So basically what I'm understanding, and tell me if I'm understanding this correctly, Harry could just come and go as he pleased and was never, ever, he never had a background check done on him. He's never had like any, like Martha said, no fingerprints, nothing done. Is this what I'm understanding? That there was never a search database done on him, that there was nothing at all. He could just come and go as he pleased because of who he was. Footsie says, this is why we have freaking criminal gang members killing innocent people. The Biden CVP didn't do their freaking job. Yeah. Like I was watching the, I don't want to make it too political, but I was watching the astronauts today that were brought back from being stuck in space since last September. And it makes you think, like, if the Trump administration, say Elon Musk, didn't do what they had to do to bring them down, then what would have happened? If Biden became president again, would he have just left them up there to rot? Would they have not have helped those astronauts who were stuck? And it just makes me think of that, basically. So I don't know. I'm not going to get off topic. I better watch what I say, or then people will get upset with me and I'll get tomatoes thrown for sharing my opinion. But let me continue on here, because this is just starting to boil my piss that Harry is still this protected, and yet he has the audacity to complain about, look at how he gets to protect his privacy, and yet he had no problems talking about his own family's privacy and exploiting them and exposing their secrets. This is ridiculous. Someone needs to put Harry in space. You know what? Stick Harry and Meghan up in space and leave them out there forever. I mean, they're constantly worried about their privacy. You can have it out there. It says here, similarly to the DHS use of the terrorist screening database system of records was not separately searched as the system of records is regarding DHS's use of the terrorist screening database, which is a data set regarding known or suspected terrorists that is owned by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Additional information is at this link here. And you guys, I will provide a link to all these documents so that if you do want to go and check out all these links that they have included, you guys can go and check it out on your own time. I'm not going to do that because then we will be here forever. And then it says here, the electronic visa update system was also not searched, as EVUS is an enrollment system used to collect information from certain non-immigrant citizens of the People Republic of China. As the Duke of Sussex is not a citizen of China, EVUS was not searched. Additional information regarding EVUS is available at blah, blah, blah. And then we got a whole bunch of redacted. We got a whole bunch of redacted we're not allowed to see. And then here it says CBP previously acknowledged but withheld in full only the entry and exit category of records. Customarily, CBP would not acknowledge the existence of these records to a third party because they confirmed that an individual traveled to the United States. Well, if we see photos of Harry in the States, then we know he is currently in the States. I don't like what? Anyways, customarily, yeah. CBP would not acknowledge the existence of these records to a third party because they can confirm that an individual traveled to the United States. It is CBP's position that an individual possesses a significant privacy interest in their travel history or entry and exit records. However, after considering plaintiffs' arguments that the Duke of Sussex is publicly known to have traveled to the United States, CBP agreed there would be no harm in merely acknowledging the existence of these records. CBP did not provide to plaintiffs a page count of the responsive records because the amount of pages of records would reveal the extent of travel. Wow, this is the guy who claims that, we should all be smart traveling and eco travelers. I can just imagine how big those records are if they don't even want to hand them over. Yeah, everything is almost redacted. This is crazy. This is absolutely nuts, but let's keep going here. It says, with respect to the remaining blank categories of records, CBP neither searched for nor acknowledged the existence of these records when responding to the plaintiff's request and in my prior declaration, as publicly confirming or denying their existence would betray the Duke of Sussex's privacy interest protected by exemptions B6 and B7 redacted. Acknowledging the existence of these categories of records they won't even tell us how many numbers of categories there are. If there was nothing to be worried about, there would be nothing. The darling demon son. I mean, this is crazy. You guys, just so you know, I'm on another screen reading this out to you. So don't think that I'm like ignoring the chat or anything. I'm just reading this on another screen, so I can't see the chat. But the more I'm going, the more my piss is boiling here. And I'm getting even further annoyed that this jerk off is just going around and just using and abusing everything to his pleasure and to his needs and complaining about his life. But let's keep going, because Harry says that he is unprotected. He doesn't feel safe, but he seems like he's being protected. Let's keep going. As explained in my previous declaration, CBP neither confirms nor denies the existence of any other requested records regarding the Duke of Sussex other than simply his entry and exit records to the United States, because the Duke of Sussex has not consented to the disclosure of records to plaintiff, and plaintiffs have not proven sufficient public interest to outweigh the Duke's right to privacy concerning any other potential CBP records about him that may or not exist. So they're trying to say that the Heritage Foundation haven't shown enough or proven enough that there are many people of the public interested in this. I mean, it does kind of, let me be honest. it kind of does make sense that not much of the public would be so interested because of everything else that is going on in the world at the moment. But I feel like this is a prince from a different country who is in your country and basically a guest, and he is taking everything for advantage. I think that, it was brought up that the Bidens had Hunter Biden and his sister had over like 20 some odd Secret Service agents watching over them. And it just makes you wonder, well, I wonder how many Harry has watching over him. And the poor taxpayers who are already struggling enough with like the inflation and being in a recession and just trying to pay bills. You've got a millionaire like this who's grifting off of the taxpayers. It's so annoying. It just makes you even more angry. And I've already said it a couple times already. It totally boils my piss. I don't want to curse or anything, but it makes me upset. Let me continue on. It is CBP's position that an individual has a strong privacy interest in not having their personal travel preference information disclosed to the public. Funny. Acknowledging or withholding or otherwise redacting any additional responsive CBP records would not be adequate to protect the personal privacy interests at risk. Thus, CBP previously invoked and continues to maintain the GOMAR response for all records other than entry and exit records addressed in their prior declaration. Any other response would acknowledge the existence of records and reveal, for example, redacted immigration status implicates significant privacy interests. I mean, ugh. Confirmation of any adverse action or immigration application would necessarily reveal the precise information that exemptions B6 and 7C shield. The minimal amount of information of interest to the public revealed by the treatment of one individual does not shed sufficient light on CBP's conduct to overcome the Duke of Sussex's privacy interest in his encounters with CBP or any information on CBP's records related to his immigration status. Number 19 is all redacted, and then she basically signs and hands this in. So, like, this is frustrating. He's always hiding under his dad's coattails. It is interesting to us on visas dealing with a different standard. If I do drugs, my visa is revoked as if I don't have a title or money, but do have a job and pay taxes. Yeah. I mean, if I was trying to get a visa for the States or something like that, and if I said that, yeah, I took drugs or something, my ass would just get booted out right away. Remember to drink, Molly. I definitely will. I have my Stanley cup full of ice here. Thank you, Katie. But I feel like if for anyone else, you can see that there is rules for Harry and rules for others, and then a separate set of rules for, the little people like you and I who just want to come and just live out our big old American dream or whatever and just, live a comfortable lifestyle. Nothing is happening. Yeah. The IRS needed to investigate Archwell yesterday. They should have, but they didn't. Let's go on to the next part. Let's close this window. Let's go to Exhibit 3. The hypocrisy is outstanding. It definitely is, isn't it? It's definitely outstanding. The fact that this guy literally put his entire family's private business on blast and still does to this day. And yet he has fought so hard to hide his own degenerate behavior and actions and just overall nastiness. So this is Mike Howell and the United States Department of Homeland Security. This is declaration of Katrina Pavlikinen, who is the Deputy Chief Freedom of Information Act Officer, FOIA. There we go. I finally got it. officer for the Department of Homeland Security and Privacy Office, and she's held that position since July 4th, 2021, so not very long. So she was also the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement FOIA officer, and prior to holding that, she worked for in the transportation, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, okay, let's get to the good stuff. Let's see what she says. So this is her. I made this declaration in response to the court's order for an in-camera review of potentially responsive records found by OBIM as they relate to any previous GLOMAR assertions made in the above captioned case. The statements contained in this declaration are based on her personal knowledge. So this is basically that she takes her duties seriously and says that, here we go. On March 21st, 2024, this court ordered defendant to submit to the court an in-camera a declaration or declarations that detail with particularly the records it is withholding and the particular harm that would arise from public disclosure of them. And we've got everything is redacted. 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 This is her, redacted. Everything is redacted. We cannot see anything that she has disclosed, and that is hers. There you go. That's her. That's it. That's it. All Biden appointees. Yeah. Did King Charles donate money to Trump's library? I'm not sure. I don't know, but this is ridiculous. So there you go. That was Exhibit 3. We got nothing out of it. We don't know nothing. They can't tell us anything. I mean, for all we know, it could just be nothing underneath it, and it's just all a bunch of black lines, and that's it. Jennifer Siami says, actually, if you think about it, this redactions, it's very illuminating and highlighting how members of the elite are actually allowed to conduct their lives outside the law. 100%. You are totally right. It is all about like a two-tier system, right? The elites have one certain rule where they can go ahead and break the law. They can do whatever they want. They can commit crimes, and because they are really rich and part of the 1%, they can do whatever they want. Whereas, say, if it was someone like you or me, we would get put under the jail cell. Like, we would have our entire lives messed up. We wouldn't get any chances, nothing. Yikes. Not fun at all, huh? Not cool. Let's keep going. We're almost done here. We've got Exhibit 6. Ooh, this is kind of big. This is 44 pages. So let's get started. So this is the Heritage Foundation against the yikes. Oh, let me get all past those addresses because I don't want to dox anyone. So what was this about? This was basically about this was the transcript of the ex parte status conference that they had before the judge. And this was for the defendant judge, and this was Harry's for the defendant, so for the government, John Bardo. And then this was the one where the Heritage Foundation didn't know about, remember? They found out about it afterwards when it was placed under seal. So this is 44 pages. Let's see if we get anything. If the scrolling hurts, my apologies. I'm not trying to trigger any seizures or anything, but let's keep going. We're on page 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, page 20. We got something on page 21. Finally, we have some, hold on a second. You are not seeing anything. Hold on. What is going on? It's a good thing silly mole. Silly mole. It's because you went on the wrong thing, you silly. Hold on a second. I was silly. Exhibit 6 keeps popping up. Okay, so here we go. Exhibit 4 is only 2 pages. Sorry, that was Exhibit 6 that I popped ahead to, so my apologies here. Sorry. So here is Exhibit 4 here, and this is the Department of Homeland Security. So on February 4th, 2024, defendant DHS provided to the court an ex parte and in-camera declaration responsive to the court's March 7, 2024 order. After reviewing those materials, which were also discussed during the April 30, 2024 ex parte hearing, the court has concluded that it requires certain additional information. Accordingly, defendants shall produce by August 23, 2024 for the court's ex parte in-camera review of documents. And it says defendants shall also produce by that same date the Duke's redacted. In addition, the declarations and materials already provided by defendant to appear inconsistent regarding whether its records reflect that redacted and redacted. That was Exhibit 4. We know you're human. I'm sorry. I mean, I've got all the exhibits open in the background, but sorry. Good night, Krista. Good night to the people that are going to bed early. I hope you guys can watch the rest on the replay later when you're like, I don't know, walking barefoot in your garden and pretending that you are picking some vegetables that your nannies or servants or housekeepers went and picked up. Why didn't Harry enter on the US on a spousal visa? Why all the secrecy? I bet you Meghan Markle was probably like, you're not coming in on my visa. No way. Not happening. Or maybe she wanted some kind of special visa, some kind of special treatment, right? So that they can get could get security because of who Harry is. But let's continue. We are moving ahead to Exhibit 5. So yes, 5 and then 6. Good job, Mole. You can count. Not only are you good at counting with the little one, but you can also count in here on live. So this is just 3 pages. Exhibit 5 is the ex parte in-camera declaration, and this was with Jared Planter, which I read out to you guys first, and it gave the information, his information, what his background is, and it says that his declaration is in response to the court's ex parte. Now, listen to this. Because his declaration here is in response to the court's ex parte order of August 15, 2024, pointing out inconsistent statements in my prior ex parte declaration dated April 3rd, 2024. So he has been caught making inconsistent statement in his reports, and he is saying that with this declaration, he is correcting his prior statements on page 8 of his April 3rd, 2024 declaration. And if you guys remember, that was the first one which I read out, which was all redacted. So he said something, and he is being like, obviously Harry's getting covered for. But let me keep going. So clearly there was he did something. He made an inconsistent statement, and then he had to change it so that it reflects, and he corrects it. I want to know what he said. I want to know if he's been greased and he had to change his story. And that's why he had to change it. Because why else would you need to change what you had originally said? The Prince of Redacted. Definitely the Prince of Redacted. Okay, so now we are on number 6, and we already went through most of this, so let's just go through it real quick through again. So here we go. We were redacted up to page 14. Close your eyes for a second so I can go all the way to page 14. Here we go. Page 14, we went to page 21 and saw that the first bit of information that we got was on page 21 here. And it says, public about how the government was dealing with the Duke. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that depending on what the true state of affairs was, that may or may not be. So my whole point in doing that ex parte discussion and submission was, rather than think about the set of hypothetical possibilities and whether each of them could possibly disclose some conduct by the government that one might want to know about about or whatever was to know with certainty what actually happened, and then to think through that what disclosing that set of facts would harm by way of privacy interests, and what if any public interest it would forward. So while I have some of the true set of facts right now, I don't have all of them, and I as well understand that some of this information that we have been talking about today is not at DHS. And this is Mr. Bardo says that's correct. The court says, so this is court transcripts here, right? That they were going through here. And then he says, do I have authority in your view to require the executive branch to disclose that information to me by way of declaration or a brief or something like that, all of the relevant true set of facts, even if one of the executive branch agencies is not a defendant, and even if one of the executive branch agencies that has relevant information at redacted, this is ridiculous. Declarations that lay out all of the relevant facts, even though that might require them to get information from a sister agency. Mr. Bardo says, could I confer with Mr. Pfaffenroth? The court says, yes, of course. Mr. Bardo says, thank you. Court says, of course. There's discussion off record. Mr. Bardo, who works for DHS, remember, says, so, Your Honor, our position would be getting the State Department involved in this case would run far afield of what exactly plaintiff is seeking. We believe that the issue in this case is whether the Department of Homeland Security is lawfully withholding these records under Exemption 6 and 7C. It is about plaintiff's request for these specific records. We would have to research whether the court is able to get another agency that's not involved in this case into this case, and we would likely need to take it up with a chain through various people at state and at justice. But this case is really about whether the Heritage Foundation is entitled to these records. God, they're just making it so much more complicated than it actually really needs to be, right? For that means they don't have all the record. Yeah, they don't have any records. I'm going to say this again. When Harry got on Tyler Perry's jet and they came over right before lockdown hit, I feel like Harry never filled out records. He came under he was like, oh, I'm Prince Harry. I can just live here and do whatever I want whenever I want. I don't think he ever filled out immigration documents. I don't think he ever filled out visa documents or customs documents or anything. Take a drink, Molly. Can you tell that? I get so worked up and so annoyed by this. Molly, why were the dogs on the Freedom flight from the UK and not under quarantine? I have no idea. Obviously, nothing was nothing applied to Harry and Meghan, because remember, dogs, animals, anything, like, you were lucky if you could take your pet over cross state lines or over the border during lockdown, or else you had to be separated from your pet for like 14 days. It was all that ridiculousness. Oh, trust me, I will preserve my throat. Oh dear. Okay, let me continue on before this conversation goes completely left. Lizzie B, it means Harry can do anything and is above the law. There was no paperwork. Yeah. I mean, Lizzie, if you weren't here when I started the stream, I basically said that Harry has basically defrauded the US government. He's talked shit about President Trump. He's done a whole bunch of shady things, and due to who he is, he will always get away with it. He will never ever be held accountable for his actions. And trust me, that is the one thing I would love to see. Harry, for once, being held accountable for his actions. Now it says here, so the court, so this is the judge, says, no, I agree with that. Clearly, we're not talking about State Department God. FOIA production here, but Mr. Bardo says, can I mention something else? And it's all redacted, and it's all redacted, and it's all redacted, and it's all redacted, redacted, redacted. I don't know what Mr. Bardo wanted to say, but it was at least like 4 pages of redactions there. And it says, hived into two separate buckets. You have buckets over at DHS, which reference the State Department materials and decisions, but the documents, or at least the reasons for them, are over at state and vice versa. So you have a universe of documents that the documents are their own universe. Listen to this bullshit line right here. So you have a universe of documents that the documents are their own universe, but the information isn't contained within that universe only. What a freaking loop of word salad gobbledygook pile of bullshit is that? Now that is experienced lawyer talk right there. Just talk a whole lot of shit that means nothing. That's, yeah, anyone else would have been deported instantly. There are many people that have been deported for much less. He gave Ashley Biden $250,000 that wasn't reported. And remember, Ashley Biden's charity didn't have that. They didn't claim that on their taxes either, which is what triggered the IRS to start looking into them. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. But let me continue on because we are almost done here. So it says, so I completely understand and I am open to you telling me, by the way, here's the true state of affairs. This is hypothetical, right? This is a true state of affairs, but the public's interest in knowing is reduced because if we had to produce the CBP materials or the DHS materials, that wouldn't tell the whole story. The public doesn't have an interest in knowing the full story. Actually, yeah, the public wants to know, and you probably can't produce the CBP materials or the DHS materials because you don't have it. That's why. I bet you could easily get materials on every other person, but not Prince Harry. Somehow the dog ate his homework, right? And it's not here. The dog ate the paperwork. Let's just blame it there. So if you think that this is a true state of affairs versus private interest, as you are, Judge Nichols, you may know that, but the production of the materials at issue here wouldn't disclose that true state of affairs. Look, we just want to know if Harry disclosed on his documents that he took drugs or not. That's it. That's all we want to know. Yes or no? The fact that it's so hard tells me that Harry didn't fill out the documents, and also Harry is guilty of everything that he confessed to and wrote about in his book. And it says, it seems to me that in thinking even about that argument, it is easier for me to think about the strength of it when I know the true state of affairs. So I'm not rejecting the argument at all. It just seems to me that, like many of the other arguments here, is more easily weighed when I know everything. And so I'll leave it to the government to decide if it would like to do that. You have until May 10th to communicate however you would like to propose how you would like to proceed. Again, if you need a little more time past the 10th, please let me know. So we're going now into May 10th. So Harry's next court date is, I guess, next update should be. Yes, hold on a second, guys. I've got my little one in the background. Give me a second. My apologies, guys, for that. My little one needed his mommy, so I'm sure you guys just heard him in the background there. Okay, let me continue on because I'm sure the little one will need me real soon here. So he says, I apologize, Your Honor. No, please. And then Peter says, we'll obviously run this up the chain. The only points that I would like to know, like to add are, when we're talking about state records, as the court just correctly summarized, we're talking about records by statute and exempt. And under the relevant precedents, Congress has already done the balancing there and weighing there. In this case, as usual, and frankly, more interesting than most of all FOIA cases because of the interplay of immigration law and FOIA law. My God. You know what, guys? I just want to know, like, how much is this costing taxpayers? How much is this costing to constantly deal with all of this and to handle all this? Like, how much is this costing? Like, Harry is just costing money everywhere he goes. Did you guys hear him in the background? Mama. Yeah, yeah, that was a real child. That was a real child in the background. Sometimes I have these moments when I'm on stream and, it happens. Unlike some people who keep their phantom hostages hidden, but we're almost done here. Let's see. So it's all redacted, 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 more redacted, and whether Prince Harry, let's see. It says, in whether Prince Harry or Sting or anyone else you can think of who is prominent has particular visa status. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. So they were trying to compare Harry to someone else and says, I know the court is well aware of all this. And the court says, no, I mean, certainly my view is that I have an ex parte discussion and ask for ex parte information only in particularly unique cases. I don't like to do it. I know the government has a strong interest in not having it happen. It did seem to me that in this case, given the parade of hypotheticals that Heritage had laid out, some of which, at least in theory, could suggest information the public would have an interest in seeing about the government, that the better path for me was to understand again the true set of facts. And then that would be, I mean, just again, I've said this a couple times, but if all the relevant information was at DHS, if we didn't have the state off to the side, and then I knew right now exactly what happened with all these things, and the information again would be produced because I have the defendant with all of the relevant records, and FOIA records would be 100% of the relevant information. It just sounds like a whole bunch of gobbledygook, like a whole bunch of nonsense. I mean, I thought that was monster. I mean, this is so ridiculous. This is, aw, thanks, Katie. I mean, guys, I'm just so disappointed. I'm just so annoyed and I'm so disappointed because this is the same guy who's constantly whining about his privacy, and look at how protected he is here. Yes, Americans are paying for him. Yes, they've been covering for him. Who is going to pay for all this stuff that Homeland Security is fighting against the Heritage Foundation? It's probably you taxpayers, right? And I was trying to sort of to get to the point, not because I thought that the public had an interest in knowing. A part of me is wondering, okay, before I continue reading this, a part of me is wondering why the Heritage Foundation, you think that they've been told to like back off of Harry a bit, right? Because, Niall Gardner, who works for the Heritage Foundation or is a face or a founder, whatever, he is connected to the Heritage Foundation. He always talks about his connections with Margaret Thatcher. So I kind of wonder if the Heritage Foundation has been told to, back off of Harry and to forget like going in on him, because I'm sure if they wanted to, they could go in on him. And yet they're using a whole bunch of hypotheticals, they're saying. You could clearly say that they did not start a lot stronger than they seemed to. Yeah, right, Penny? I mean, they did. They did seem a lot stronger, and now it just seems like they aren't so much into it, that they don't really like, ho hum, like we'll see, like we think. It's like, no, you don't really seem like you're so into it. It definitely does seem like they've been told to back off or something, because how can you like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense at all. But let me continue because we're almost done here. So basically, they're saying that they will get back to them on the May the 10th. So the court says, how about we do this? I'd like to know an answer by May the 10th if possible. Right. And the court says, I have amazing staff. As I've said recently, I probably didn't say it enough. I'm sure he'll do his level best, and I will get it to you as soon as possible if that's the case. In that event, for whatever reason you say, we need a little bit more time, just come back. And then Mr. Faffin North says, great. The court says, I realize that, whereas my original request was for DHS information, of course, this is asking for information from a non-party at least obviously in a sense, and that might be more complicated than the prior request. So what non-party could, like, I don't get it. I'm trying to understand why it would be so complicated. Just let us know what we want to know about Harry's records. Did he like mention that he used, did he disclose his drug use, which he probably didn't, and did he mention that he had to that he never even filled out documents? Why doesn't he just say that? That's it. Kate, it's the public being guarded from Hunter, and that's oh dear. Oh dear, I'm going to stay out of the chat here. So yeah, the court is giving them time to find all the documents basically. May 10th is the next, and there's nothing else. Then the meeting concluded at 4:30, and those are all the documents in the dump. That's it. The Prince of Redactions and Redactions is being protected. Totally being protected. This guy has some nerve to be trying to sue the UK government for protection when he's already this protected. He looks like an absolute idiot, complete moron, total imbecile. And even the court, the US government, is even protecting him because they could have gone in on him. They could have exposed everything on him, but they didn't. It's very, it should be, Americans should be pissed off, taxpayers should be pissed off that this guy is still being coddled at the big old age of 40. I mean, he opened his big old mouth himself and told the world how much of an addict he is, how much he needs substances to get through his day. And now it's like, uh-oh, I made a mistake, and everyone else has to cover for him and clean up his mess behind him. And this is what Harry has always done. This is how Harry has always been coddled. And this is why he has never learned a lesson. This is why he's been a backstabbing piece of shit. And he has never learned a lesson because he has always gotten away with being a jerk. Anyways, I'm starting to lose my voice here. I mean, it is very insulting. It's very insulting. And Charles isn't gonna step in and do anything because it is his darling boy. And these are two grifters. Bill Simmons was right when he called them two lazy effing grifters, because that's what they are. But anyways, guys, I should go see Protect Your Throat. I'm gonna go protect my throat, that's for sure. I'm gonna go make some warm tea and some hot water and coat my throat here, because yeah, this was an hour and 7 minutes. We didn't do so bad, did we, guys? I mean, the live, we did pretty well covering those 6 exhibits, and we did it all within an hour and 10 minutes. But I feel bad for taxpayers. I feel bad for people who are constantly having to pay for Harry's screw ups and cover for him. I'm just sick and tired of it. I feel like Americans have every right to know, as do Commonwealth citizens and people who, like, I don't live in a Commonwealth country anymore, but when I did, I still think that I have every right to know what is going on. But anyways, guys, gargle with some warm salt and water. I definitely will. But what do you guys have to say? What do you guys think? I mean, I'm annoyed. I knew it was going to be a big nothing burger. And if you guys were here on the live yesterday, um, I, I like, look at the profile photo. I basically said, this is what we'll get. And it is exactly what we got. And thank you. Let me say thank you to those who spelled out phonetically the proper way of pronouncing FOIA. Thank you very much to those those of you who did that for me. I appreciate you guys fixing my pronunciation on words and stuff. I totally appreciate it. 100%. Pink Lapel says, don't be annoyed if it opens our door to an appeal with 3 different judges. Yeah, it will. It'll be interesting. I mean, Harry is just costing taxpayers money everywhere he goes. He's costing American taxpayers money. He's costing UK taxpayers. pardon me, he's paying, costing UK taxpayers money in the UK with that stupid, frivolous lawsuit. The guy is a walking moron. He's a pathetic idiot who has turned into Meghan's lapdog. And until he grows a set of balls himself, or I don't know, grows a chia pet for a ball set, I don't know. But he needs to grow a backbone and do something because Harry's a loser at this point. Anyways, I just feel like this was good that I came here and read all of the documents to you guys because I feel like we should be made aware of it, and that um we should have record of it. I know that this live was longer than the usual that I like to do it, but I feel like we should have this somewhere saved just in case of if it gets wiped off the internet. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get out of here because I can feel that my voice is starting to go, and I feel like an hour and 10 is perfect. So thank you, you guys, for tuning in and spending your evening here with me. And I wish this would have gone a different way and Harry was being held accountable, but yeah, I guess we will see if he ever gets held accountable, but I won't hold my breath. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you who come and spend your time with me and hang out here and listen to my rants or listen to me read. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this channel here and with this community. And thank you to the mods for your work and for regulating the chat. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to go and drink some hot water now. Trust me, I'm fine. It's just that I've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes and it's not like me. Thanks, guys. I will see you in the next one. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate you guys and love you all very much. Mwah, 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 mwah. Toodles, friends.